We're like black and white today.
We are looking fabulous.
I'm the dark side. You're the light side. We should switch shirts.
No, that's totally correct.
We should switch shirts.
I'm totally would be the light side and you'd be the dark side. You know that's on camera, right?
These days, everything's on camera, so.
Everything is on camera. Okay.
Are you ready? I feel like you're like trying to get ready mentally.
Yeah, it's just making sure all the pieces.
Oh, you're thinking about everything.
Yeah.
I don't think about anything. I just sit down.
So for those of you who are watching, we're in our living room. We don't have a set recording studio, and so we set up and tear down every time we record. So it's like hook this cord up here, computer's there, lights there, camera there, and just making sure everything. So when I come to sit down, I'm like, okay, mental check. Did I do that?
Which I'm glad that you do that because I don't think about any of it.
No, you just sit down and look pretty and drop your knowledge on them, your wisdom.
Wisdom bombs.
Drop your wisdom on them. So are you ready to drop some wisdom bombs on all of us today?
Yeah.
Finish up this series?
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be good.
Okay. Are you
Let's
ready?
do it. I'm ready. Let's get her done.
Gather around, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Truth Bomb. Truth Bomb.
Hello and welcome. No. Why do you do that to me? Hey guys.
Because it's fun.
Hello and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 89 of the Family Meeting Podcast. On today's episode, we are going to wrap up our discussion on unity in the family. And remember that these 5 episodes here have been adapted from a 5-week series Thomas and I have been presenting at our church called This Is Us. And we're taking some time to learn from a family in the Bible. And this family had a lot of problems. And we're going to see some of those today. Today, we're going to be focusing specifically on Genesis 27 and the fallout.
So you talked about we're going to be learning from a family in the Bible. Like, what family are we going to learn from?
I don't know. I'm just kidding.
I was like, oh, really?
He's looking at me like, what are you doing?
We literally spent the last 5 weeks talking about them. Do you not know who they are?
It is Isaac who married Rebekah. They had twin sons, Esau and Jacob. Esau was the firstborn, Jacob was the younger. So I do know knowledge bombs.
Who's Jacob's grandpa?
Abraham.
Who's Jacob's grandson?
Wait. Manasseh.
He had a lot of them.
Yeah, he did, but I had to name one. Manasseh and Ephraim. Okay, are we done quizzing?
I guess.
I wish I could quiz you, but I can't think of questions.
We'll do Bible quiz bowl sometime.
Oh, that sounds fun. Okay, so the main thing that we hope that you've taken from all of these messages, especially today, is that there is always a fallout.
Always.
Everything we do has a consequence. Everything that we say has an effect on others. Every road we walk down leads somewhere. Today, we're going to see where this family's path took them. We started at the beginning with this family, where it was just their children. They were being born right at the beginning. And we've seen favoritism that was left unchecked. And it progressed into competition, disunity, deceit, distrust, dysfunction, opposition, and disunity. Today, we're going to look at the fallout that comes from all of that and the fallout that comes from our lack of effort.
And we're really focusing in on the negative fallout from this family because we have seen a lot of the negative that they do. But when we talk about fallout and repercussions and all those things, there can be positive fallout too. Mm-hmm. So don't just think about it in a negative aspect, but that's the example that's in front of us. And so it's something that we want to make sure that we're working to avoid the direction that they've gone. But we're picking up the story in Genesis chapter number 27. and verse number 41. Jacob just stole the blessing, and you can check out last week's episode for that, episode number 88. Jacob just stole the blessing, and now we pick up in verse number 41. Now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are approaching, then I will kill my brother Jacob." And one of the things you see here is Esau is super angry. He's super upset, but he has enough self-control to wait till his father is going to pass. So he says, hey, I'll wait till he's gone, and then I'm going to kill him. So he still cared about what his dad thought about him. But one of the things here is looking at Jacob, and that is we get to choose our behavior, but we don't get to choose the consequences of our behavior. So you can do and say whatever it is you want to say, but you don't get to choose the fallout and the repercussions from that. Mm-hmm. And Jacob is now running for his life, literally. And we've spent a little bit of time looking at these boys from their birth until now. And I'm going to guess that in a hand-to-hand combat, Jacob wouldn't stand a chance against Esau.
No.
I mean, Esau is used to hunting and killing and whatever else. And so Jacob knows this, and so does his mother. And so we're going to see in a second here that the only option that Jacob has is to run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it makes me wonder how Jacob thought all of this would turn out. I mean, did he think he was going to swindle his brother out of the birthright and then steal the blessing from him? And then Esau was going to be like, well, what's done is done, brother. I love you. Yeah. You know, it's all right. Water under the bridge. No big deal. Let's hug it out. No way. There's no way that in his mind he thought this is going to turn out great for me. He had to know that this would have a terrible outcome, but I'm certain that he never thought it would be this bad. I'm sure he could not have imagined that it was going to be life or death for him, knowing that he was going to have to run away from home, never see his parents again, could not, really even, he couldn't really enjoy the blessing or the birthright. He's running. He's on the run.
Yeah.
He's going to be going to strangers, and leave the comforts of home. But he didn't know how bad the outcome would be. And that's the thing is like hindsight is 20/20, right? Every time we go through something, we look back and we're like, oh man, I'm so glad I did that. Or wow, that was a terrible idea.
Like, I'm usually on that side of things where it's like, oh, you moron. Why did you say that? Or why did you do that?
Right. But there are some times when we make a decision and we have to face the repercussions, and sometimes it's good. And it's like, I'm really glad I made that decision, even though I had to deal with the fallout. What about you, Thomas? Have you ever had that happen where you knew something was going to have repercussions, but you went ahead and went for it anyway?
Yeah. The one that comes to mind right away is this happened a long time ago. So we were newly married, first couple of years of our marriage, living in Alabama at the time, working at the first church that I worked at full-time. First full-time job at a church. And we were working like crazy. And as we talked about on this podcast before, Lysandra and I had this conversation before we ever got married. And we're staring down the barrel at 19 years in August.
Staring down the barrel?
Yeah.
What's at the end of the barrel? A bullet?
I guess. I don't know. Maybe they're bobbing for apples and that's the barrel they're staring down. I don't know.
Is there something better you could say there? Like,
no.
Okay.
I'll sum it up.
Alrighty. Moving on.
Once again, staring down the barrel in 19 years. So we had this conversation quite a while ago, but I always told you, like, whatever you want in life, hey, go for it. If you have goals and dreams, ambitions, you want a career, you want whatever, then fantastic. Go for it. If you want to stay home, then I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that you can stay home. And, of course, you are very ambitious. And so you loved working, loved ministry, loved what you were doing. We worked at church and the school. Mm-hmm. And it was basically sun up to sundown all the time. And then we started having kids, and you wanted to stay home. And so you stepped away from teaching full time, but you're still doing some part-time work for that church. But really didn't want to, I don't think. And then the church was getting ready to do some sort of conference or something. I forget what it was.
The school was. Mm-hmm.
The school, yeah. And so the pastor wanted you to work. He wanted you to work extra hours. Mm-hmm. So he came to me and he asked me, can Lysandra work so many hours? And we had agreed. And so I said, no, she can't. She wants to be at home with our girls, and so I want her at home with our daughters. And we had 2 very small children and 1 on the way. Mm-hmm. So he got so mad, and he wasn't a person who got angry all the time.
Never, almost.
So he got mad. He went down to where you were working because you were putting in your couple hours at the time, and said, "Today will be your last day." Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what was your response?
Yes, sir. That's what I said.
Just like that.
Yes, sir.
And
I didn't even know what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew he wanted me to work longer, and I knew I didn't want to, but I didn't know exactly what had happened.
Didn't know the meeting we had. And so he came down. I think that made him even more angry.
Yeah, he got pretty upset then.
Because I think he thought if he made you worried about your job, then you would come talk to me and get me to change my mind. But it was a decision we had made together.
We made it together, right.
Like most decisions we make. And so he got angry. He came down and he said, "Hey, today will be your last day too." And I was just like, okay, that's fine. I'll have my office packed up by the end of the day. And I just remember the peace that came over me.
Yes,
but then it was like, oh, crap. Like, I'm married. I have 2 toddlers. No, one wasn't even a toddler yet.
Yeah.
So I have a toddler,
like
an infant,
8-month-old.
and then 1 on the way.
Yeah.
A house, and what am I doing to pay for all this? So there were definitely repercussions for the actions, but I'm okay with it because it was a promise that I made to you. It was a decision we made together, and I needed to stick by what I said I would do. Mm-hmm. So once again, there's going to be fallout for our actions. Sometimes it's very negative. For us, it was very positive. It was a good thing to get out of the situation we were in.
But even though the repercussions were really hard. They were,
yeah.
Like broken relationships, a lot of tears, financial struggle, all of those things. But yet we knew that it was an answer to prayer. We had been praying, God, should we stay or should we go? And he could not have made it more clear than that.
Yeah.
Such a great moment in our lives.
And it was ultimately a path that led us to where we are today and what we're doing today. So
that's right.
It's been fantastic.
Yeah.
So what about you? What's a decision that you've made that kind of had some consequences or some repercussions to it? What's the fallout?
Yeah. So the one that comes up in my mind is when I was younger and I had a friend that I knew was not really a great influence on me, and I needed to.
Was that friend me?
Yeah, at one point or another, yes. But not in the circumstance that I'm talking about. Actually, I totally could, though. I could change the story right now to being a different one where you're the star.
Yeah, but I'm still the star of that story, leading you down a negative path.
Yeah, but I can't get rid of you now.
Ask your father and mother.
I'm staring down the barrel of 19 years.
Oh, nice. Way to bring it around.
Thank you. It's how I roll. Anyway, so yeah, I had this friend that was not a great influence on me, and I knew that I needed to take a step back. And so
when you say not a great influence, like what kind of things are you talking about?
Just the Lord was not like first priority in her life, and there were some kind of the way she viewed people and like a lot of gossip and catty behavior and stuff like that. I mean, I was a teenager, so I'm not talking about like, drugs and that kind of thing. That was not what I was dealing with, but I'm just talking like more of behavior.
Okay.
Church was not a priority to her, and it was to me, ministry and all that kind of thing. So anyway.
Just different directions in life.
Different directions, yeah. And so I tried to do the old, like, oh, I'm really busy today, and like just slowly like kind of try to distance myself from the relationship, and it wasn't working.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait, you try. I heard something. I don't want to let you gloss over it. Mm-hmm. So you told it you used this like fake excuse if I'm busy?
It was not fake at all. I was absolutely busy. Nice try.
Yeah, but you didn't speak the truth, though. That was not the reason the relationship fizzled out.
I was speaking a truth.
So she needs to go back and watch the episode.
The lie.
The lie.
Yes. I omitted truth, but yes.
You were young, you were very young then. And
yeah, I was like 14. Like,
didn't know what you know now.
Yes, exactly. But it did come to the point where I did have to be kind of honest and be like, I need to distance myself from you.
How did she take that?
Not well. It was, the repercussions were bad. Like, I remember swearing. She cursed me out and yelled at me, and I was like bawling my eyes out. I did not see it coming. I didn't realize it was going to be that bad. But it was also affirmation that I made the right choice. Like, this is not the kind of person I need to be spending the most of my time with.
Yeah, she sounded like a winner.
Yeah. So it was a good decision. I don't regret the decision, but I had to face the fallout in spite of it.
Yeah, and some of those conversations are hard, and like the immediate reaction from the person who may not handle it well, like this girl, for instance, that's tough in the moment. But like you said, it's way better on the other end of that. Mm-hmm. So continuing on in the story in verse number 42, it says, "But the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, 'Behold, your brother Esau comforts himself about you by planning to kill you.'"
Wow.
So she hears, not so surprised considering the story, she hears everything in this house.
Moms always have their ears like
that is true. Yeah.
listening.
So for maybe all of our younger viewers, teenagers out there that are listening, your mom knows.
That's right. And it's like when something gets quiet in the other room, I'm like, what's going on?
Exactly. Like this is strange. It got very quiet. Yeah. But Esau, he's just so mad. The only thing that comforts his spirit is the thought of killing his brother. And I'm sure he rattled around some things in his mind too. You know, if Jacob is dead, then the birthright and the blessing falls back to me.
Right.
You know, I'm the one remaining son left. And so now it appears Esau has a plan just like Jacob. And that's for him to be dead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
verse 43 and 44 kind of continue on. You want to read those two for us?
Yeah. "Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice." This is Rebekah talking to Jacob. "Arise, flee to Laban, my brother, in Haran, and stay with him a while until your brother's fury turns away." So Rebekah is not going to stand back and just watch her older son kill her younger son. She's going to protect her son.
Which is good parenting.
That's good. Making sure one child doesn't kill the other. I mean, that's good parenting. Yeah. Parenting 101.
And we've talked in the past about how important it is for us as parents to protect our children from each other.
Yeah. Even abuse, verbal, emotional.
And we've seen instances where parents just kind of stand back and just let whatever happen.
Yeah.
And that just that's not what's best for the family.
Mm-mm. And Rebekah's hope is that if Jacob is gone long enough, Esau's anger will subside and he'll get over it, so to speak. And even that seems to be like, are you for real? Like, who's going to get over that?
Yeah.
Who's going to get over somebody, like their only sibling stealing everything from them and from all their children and grandchildren and so on and so forth? It's shocking to me that is even a thought. But they're just like, I can't believe that they went through with the plan.
Right. Yeah.
I can't believe that they thought it was going to work out. I mean, we've all done stupid things, but this is like, wow. But she hopes that Jacob will be able to return home eventually and everything's going to be okay. And even though, this was a plan she had, and this was a plan that she worked out and somewhat coerced Jacob into doing, she knew Esau would be mad. I know that she knew that. That's just
how could he not?
Obvious, right? But I'm certain she must have had regrets not knowing it was going to be this bad. And she's preparing to send her son away. And as she's preparing to say goodbye to him, possibly forever, I'm sure she was regretting her decision. I mean, this is before FaceTime and texting and even like mailing letters. This is before, like, she's probably never going to see him again.
Yeah.
Or talk to him again.
Well, and one of the things we really see from this story from both Jacob, Esau, and Rebekah is they never really thought about what the fallout's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So Esau never thought about what is the fallout going to be from me selling my birthright for a bowl of stew.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he never thought about that and where it would lead. Jacob is not thinking about where his actions are going to lead and what's going to happen. Rebecca here is not thinking about, hey, when I get my son to steal the blessing, this is what's going to happen. None of them are considering the outcome of their actions. Mm-hmm. And that's what we really want to challenge you with. And that's really what this whole episode is focused in on. What is the fallout going to be from my words, my actions, and what I'm doing? Is it going to lead to greater family unity, which is the goal? That's what we want. Or is it going to lead to fighting, mm-hmm. to outburst, to separation, like it does here?
Yeah, and we need to be thinking about that for ourselves and behaving in such a way that we're thinking about the future. But also we need to instill that into our children. And we have one daughter that really struggles with this, especially when she was younger. Like, she couldn't see that if I do this, probably this is going to happen. Yeah. And it's going to be really, really bad. I'm talking about like carrying glass dishes on the top of a stack of precarious books, you know?
Yeah.
And walking across the room and going upstairs with like glass, you know? And the amount of things that she broke was like,
broken.
Wow.
Yeah.
She broke so many things. And it got to a point when she was older, if she did something that was just thoughtless and like just careless, we finally started telling her, if you break something else, because you're careless, you're going to pay for it. And the first time, do you remember the first time that we actually made her buy that vase again? She broke a floor vase that had like seashells from all over. We actually made her pay for it. And I wanted to go back so bad on my word on that. I did not want to make her pay for that.
Yeah. Which is a little bit of what we talked about last episode too.
Yep. And it was $15. It wasn't even that, but for a child, like that's birthday money that she saved up. And so she was maybe like 11, and she bought that vase. And I think after that, we saw quite a turnaround.
Oh yeah, big time.
She was way more careful and stopped doing things that were just like thoughtless and careless. So not only do we need to be thinking this way, like all my actions have consequences, but we need to teach our children to think that way too, even when they're little, because that follows them through life. It's a really good thing that we need to be training and teaching our children.
And so Rebecca says in verse 45, until your brother's anger turns away from you and he forgets what you have done to him, then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereft of you both in one day? So the family's going to be separated here, mm-hmm. and she understands that. Now, her goal is, hey, hopefully one day we'll all be restored and it'll be fine. But that's not today. Mm-hmm. Like, this was not a, man, I'm going to kill you, like joking around. This was literally, he's going to kill him. So there's separation there. And this got me wondering. And we asked this question to our congregation on Sunday. And I'm kind of curious about those of you who are watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast. How many of our listeners have family members who haven't spoken for years? So maybe in the past or currently. Now, I'm interested for those of you who are out there to weigh in on this, mm-hmm. because when we polled, we had people raise their hand at church. How many of you either currently or in the past have had family members who haven't spoken for years? Most every family had a hand raised. Mm-hmm. And that was just so sad.
You and I both raised our hand, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Because my dad's side has never really been close. And a lot of times they would only see each other a couple times a year and would not chat like in between.
I guess the positive thing about that is
not a lot of drama.
Not a lot of drama.
But there was a sad situation with one of my mom's sisters. And I don't know what happened with her and my grandma and the other siblings, but they've not seen her or talked to her in decades, I don't think.
Yeah, it's so sad.
I can remember when I was younger, like seeing her and visiting her at her house and stuff. And but I literally can't remember how long it's been. It's been at least 2, maybe 3 decades.
Wow. How old does that make you?
Old.
Yeah. And I have a couple of family members who went through kind of a roller coaster ride of this, where it was like, we're BFFs and we hang out all the time. And then you did something that made me mad, and they would not speak for years.
But it was over important things, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not over important things. Not in my opinion. Clearly, in their opinion, it was important to them.
Well, it always is in somebody's eyes.
Exactly. And so, yeah, they would go for years without talking. And then something would happen, a death in the family or a birth. One time it was a birth that brought them back. And all of a sudden, first of all, they never did I'm sorry, I forgive you. Okay. They never ever reconciled anything. It was just like, well, we went long enough now that we're not hot and angry anymore, so we'll just pretend it never happened.
Exactly like what she's saying.
Yes.
Is, hey, eventually his anger will die down and you can come home.
Right. But my family members, they would be able to do that for a while. Like maybe they'd have another good year, and then it was the same thing. Something would set them off. And because there was never any restoration from the first thing. And it just kept going. So they went through this back and forth.
Yeah. So almost like, volcanoes where it bubbles underneath.
Yep.
And then it erupts, and then it cools down and it's bubbling underneath. And
yeah.
Because the situation's never resolved.
Right.
But here we find that Isaac and Rebekah let their favoritism get so far that there's just no turning back now. Mm-hmm. The only solution was to send one son away. Their only option at this point was a fractured family unit.
So sad.
And it is beyond sad.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we are seeing this over and over and over again all around us.
Yeah. And, I think for parents out there listening who have children living at home, little children or teenagers, this is our fear. Yeah. This is a fear of mine. I do not want to, oh gosh, I just want this beautiful picture of family Christmases and Sunday afternoon, get-togethers, and everybody comes back home and the grandkids come home and this picture perfect, which I probably need to work on getting that picture out of my mind.
Yeah.
Because, nothing's as picture perfect as we dream it. But the fear of this fractured family unit where one child doesn't come back home.
Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why Lysandra and I are so passionate about family ministry. Mm-hmm. It's why we do this podcast every week. It's why we do a marriage retreat every year.
Yes.
Little plug here for our relationship refresh in Orlando, July 15th and 16th.
Everyone's welcome.
So make some plans. We'll have more details out about that. And we're working even further to expand family meeting, and we'll have some updates coming up later on. But we are so passionate about it because families are so fractured all around us.
Right.
And it's heartbreaking. So our desire is to help you have the family relationships that you desire to have, that are fulfilling and bring peace and life. But here, their only option now, because of the direction they've chosen to go, is a fractured family unit.
Yeah. And maybe this is happening in your home. Maybe favoritism, competition, arguing, disunity, all of this has been the culture in your family. But let me tell you, all of that can change. It's not too late for you. It's not too late for your family. And so here we want to give you some steps to help you change that culture in your family. Okay? So here's some steps that you can take to change the culture in your family. Number 1, call for a family meeting. We encourage that a lot, don't we?
Yes, we do. And that's literally why we named this podcast and this ministry the way that we did, because it's such an important thing that not a lot of families do.
Yeah. Think about if Isaac was like, all right, family meeting.
Yeah. Everybody sat.
Everybody get in here. Jacob, Esau, get in here. Rebecca, where are you? Come on, let's talk.
And we're just going to talk about it.
We're going to talk this out.
And we have at least 2 or 3 times a week where we just sit down and we chat. It's not necessarily every time we meet, it's like some earth-shattering, bad things are happening, so we need to deal with it. It's like, hey, let's just catch up. Let's talk about what's going on in our lives.
Yeah. And it's funny. I'm a note taker. I think anybody who's listened to this podcast very long knows I'm a note taker and a list taker, list maker. whenever something comes up, like when it's just me and the girls or me and one daughter or whatever, and there's just something that comes up or something I think like, oh, this is a teachable moment or whatever, I pull out my phone on my notepad and I make a note. And later on, I'll tell Thomas, I'll be like, I've
family
got
meeting
family
tonight.
meeting, honey. And we all gather together and I just pull up that note and we'll talk about that one little thing that was a teachable moment. Maybe a daughter asked a question that I thought was really good and we should all talk about it or whatever. So, but when we're talking about calling for a family meeting, in this case, we are talking about a family meeting because we are going to work on changing the culture in our family. So all the family members need to be present for this family meeting. That's the first step.
So number 2 way and step of changing the culture is you're at this family meeting, right? Everybody's there. Admit openly the problems and name them specifically. So what Isaac and Rebecca should have done is they should have gotten the family together and said, listen, we've got favoritism present.
Right.
We've got deceit here. We have pride. We have selfishness. And they should have just started naming the names of what was taking place.
Right.
Things are not going to change until you start to get specific about what needs to change. Mm-hmm. So that second step is important. You have to name what it is that you see going on in your family that shouldn't be going on.
Yeah, and this leads right into number 3, which is take responsibility for your part. So Isaac should have been like, hey, I lied. I gave you guys that example, and now you're doing that.
Yeah.
And mom should have said, you guys, I've been deceitful. I have been pitting Jacob against you, Esau, and taking responsibility for your part. We cannot call a family meeting and be like, listen, your dad's got problems.
Everybody knows dad's got problems. No reason to call it out.
Exactly. But
What do you mean exactly?
I'm sorry. Okay.
You're like, I know he does.
Well.
Wow, did you hear that voice?
But you're not calling a family meeting so you can point out everybody else's problems.
Exactly.
You have to take responsibility for your part, no matter what size that is, no matter what ratio your part of the problem is. We have to take responsibility for our part.
And we often talk about this in marriage counseling, marriage coaching. We make people sit down and say, what part of the problem are you? Don't tell me what part your spouse is. What part are you? Whether that's 5%. Okay, there's 5% you can work on. Maybe
Right.
it's 95%. Okay, we got a lot to work on. But you have to own your part first. And then step 4 is apologize for mistakes you've made. So whatever your part of the problem is, whatever the mistakes that you've made, you need to apologize for them. Mm-hmm. Some of the best words and most powerful words that you can use are the words, I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry for what I did. And we need to be careful about this, and we talk about this often because we see it happen so often. Mm-hmm. Where people want to say, I'm sorry, and it seems like they're owning it, but then they turn it around on somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry that you took it that way.
Right.
You see what I did there? I started to apologize, but then I very quickly turned it back around on the other person. So it's just, no, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have shown favoritism to Jacob, but I showed favoritism. That was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come up with a plan to steal the birthright. I did that. Jacob, I'm so sorry. I should not have forced and made you go through with this plan. You see, it's just owning and apologizing for what you've done and stopping there. Don't turn it around on the other person. Don't try to justify it. Mm-hmm. Just, hey, I'm sorry.
And then ask for forgiveness. Number 5, ask for forgiveness. So say, I'm sorry, I did this, and name everything specifically, take ownership and say, will you forgive me? This is an important step because it puts the ball now in the other person's court and allows them an opportunity to accept the apology and offer forgiveness, and then reconciliation can be made, which should always be the goal.
Yeah.
And just talking about my family members as the example that do this whole, like, I'm mad, let's not talk for 4 years. A new baby is born in the family. Okay, we'll forget about everything. But never actually getting to the point where it's, I'm sorry. I forgive you. hug it out, reconciliation. They never get to that point. And even when our kids were little, we started to help facilitate this step in the kids. So I'm talking about toddlers.
Yeah.
One toddler would steal the other toddler's sippy cup. And we'd say, okay, nope, you don't do that. Give it back. Say, I'm sorry for taking your cup. All right, say, will you forgive me? Now you say, I forgive you. All right, hug. Okay, very good. Now go play. And it was like this whole thing that we did, even when they were teeny tiny, in preparation for them to understand how to reconcile and how to get through things when they're older. So whatever age your children are, help facilitate this, help train them to be able to do this, to get to the point of reconciliation. And even when we have to mete out discipline in our family, we always want there to be reconciliation at the end, where our children have the opportunity to say that they're sorry to us. And then we have an opportunity to offer forgiveness and make things right. And reconciliation can be had. And that is a really important step. So don't forget to ask for forgiveness.
Well, and the way to picture it is, okay, we've got separation from whatever. Something's happened. There's something dividing the family. Now, when I apologize, I'm taking a step towards that person. Mm-hmm. And then I'm giving them an opportunity to take a step to me by asking for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Now, I can't make somebody take that step. Mm-hmm. But when I ask for forgiveness, I'm giving them an opportunity to step towards me. Now, they may or may not step towards you and forgive you. Mm-hmm. That should not dictate whether or not we say we're sorry, whether or not we ask for forgiveness. Mm-hmm. I need to be responsible to do my part and do what's right by that person, whether or not. And there's going to be times where they don't forgive. Mm-hmm. But you have done your part. You've left the ball in their court. And when they're ready, then they can take that step towards you. And here's number 6, and that is describe your specific plan to change going forward. Because if you don't have a plan going forward to change going forward, you're just going to keep repeating and recycling the same thing and doing the same thing. So, hey, this is how I'm going to change this behavior. This is how I'm going to fight the favoritism. This is what I'm going to do to overcome the deception, the lying, the deceit. This is specifically plan by plan. And along that, you're going to fall, you're going to fail. Just get up and work the plan.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And you might have to repeat these steps several times. I mean, you're trying to change a culture in a family. So breaking habits doesn't happen overnight, right? It takes work and consistency. So don't give up if you make a mistake. It takes a long time to change a family culture that has been built up over a long time.
Yeah, because and you didn't get to this place in a moment. You're not going to get out of this place in a moment.
Right. And so you can start back at step 1. Call the family meeting. We went back to favoritism, guys. Come back in, and repeat the steps. And
something to remember is you get to a bad place in a relationship a lot faster than you get to a good place.
That's so unfortunate.
Especially, when you're coming out of a bad place. It takes a long time to build back up trust in the bond and the unity. So don't get discouraged. Don't quit. Just keep on moving in the right direction. And unfortunately for this family here with Isaac and Rebecca, this culture continued for generations. I mean, you have the mistakes that Abraham made in lying and really planting seeds of deception that blossomed in Isaac and his lying and his deception. You have Jacob, who is literally known as the deceiver, and everything that he did, lying and deceiving and plotting and scheming, and that passes on to his sons. He's got all these sons who show pride and lying, deceiving, and all this stuff. And you're not going to be able to change your family's culture in a moment. It's a process. And it takes prayer, it takes time, it takes work, and the key is consistency.
Yes.
Just keep on, one step every single day. Just keep on doing what you're supposed to do, and eventually you'll get to the place where you want to go. But the thing you have to remember, and Lysandra touched on this already just a little bit ago, that it's not too late for you. Mm-hmm. remember, with God, nothing is impossible.
Yes.
Like, he is the God of the impossible. He's the God who literally rose from the dead by his own power,
Right.
conquering sin, conquering death, restoring our fractured relationship with God, which means he can repair any relationship.
Yes, he can.
There's hope for any relationship. Mm-hmm. So don't give up. Just get up, do the right thing.
Yeah. Isaac and Rebecca tolerated and fostered a highly dysfunctional home. The fallout affected lots and lots of generations in the future. So what's the impact that you want to leave for future generations in your family? Make a commitment to leave a legacy of unity in your home.
So as we've already talked about, family meetings are important for us.
Yes.
So we want you to have a family meeting tonight and just talk about what the fallout will be from the way that you run your home. Discuss whether it's a culture of deception and competition, or is it one of team and unity? And if you need to begin to change your family's culture, start with the steps that we talked about in your family meeting tonight. Remember, step one is just literally have a family meeting. And hey, we're going to point out what's wrong here. Like, these are issues that we're facing as a family. And listen, if we continue down this road, this is what the fallout's going to be. And we don't want to go that way. So I'm going to own my part. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to ask for forgiveness. I'm going to come up with a plan. Let's come up with a plan as a family. How can we move forward from here and avoid these things?
Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information to be helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org. And if you have questions, comments, you need some help, or maybe you just want to share some episode ideas, shoot an email to info@familymeeting.org. Or you can shoot us a text or leave us a message at 904-257-3062. That's 904-257-3062. We'd love to hear from you.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting entitled Find Me a Friend. I recently wrote an article for the Family Meeting blog about this, and we received quite a response. Parents want their kids to have friends, good friends, not just any friends.
Yeah.
But how do you find them? How do you facilitate those relationships? What if you're new to the area? What if your child struggles to make friends? So we're going to give you some ideas, tips, and suggestions, and who knows, you might learn how to find a friend as an adult too.
I might need this.
Yeah, you do.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned. Boom, another series down. Another series down.
Yep.
You are exceptional today. Just right on point.
Really?
Yeah. The way you brought back that staring down the barrel.
Yeah, I'm funny.
You are amazing. I want to thank you for joining us as we record this episode 89. As we mentioned, we're marching on to episode 100, a special podcast episode. We'll sit down with all of our kids. We do want to invite you to the Relationship Refresh, July 15th, 16th in Orlando. And we'll have some more information out about that very quickly here. But it's just such a great time. As we mentioned, we're very passionate about families, about relationships, and it's important that you take time. Your marriage doesn't have to be a disaster. Your relationship doesn't have to be a disaster to work on it. We got to be working on it all the time. So we're excited about that. Excited to have you come along and be a part of what we're doing here at Family Meeting. We hope that you will have a great week. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.